the toughest thing to meet a person where they're at. And I think it's just that, like, meeting people where they're at. And so I'm not trying to shove it down your throat, right? I'm not one of these motivational messages that's like up in your mind, like up in your face and stuff like that, trying to like impose and stuff. I'm really just, trying to make sure that you are aware of the message I'm bringing. And so like making sure I'm conscious of where they're at and being real and being honest. Like, oh, okay, you at a low spot. Like, I've been there too, right? That's my first approach. I'm never trying to, I've been there too. Here's how I got it. It's kind of like take it or leave it. Like, you could bring a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink, right? And so we try to teach students that and let them know. I hope that by my approach, you could see I'm being real and I'm not bringing you a false message. Because that's a lot where you lose people. I see a lot in my field too, just like preaching and saying certain things like, well, damn, like, I don't feel like you hear me or you understand what I'm going through if you just shoot me like that. And so for me, that's the biggest thing. And so when we talk about that optimistic point of view, between the difference between that and positivity is like, positive person would have said in the pandemic, like, oh, we good, like, we good, everything's gonna be okay, when really it's like, nah, a lot of people hungry and a lot of people like going through it and losing jobs and what have you, and it's looking skim, right? Mm-hmm. Optimistic point of view is like, well, at least it could, like, optimistic point of view is at least we got water, right? Like, mm-hmm. at least we have things, at least it's, we're alive. We got things. It's looking at the reality of the situation mm-hmm. versus just trying to like ignore. You get what I'm saying? Like It's just, so, in a simpler, term is what I did was, the glass of water like we talked about, positivity is like, oh, it's half full. Negative is like, it's half empty. Mm-hmm. Optimistic, we like, well, we got water, right? Well,
mm-hmm.
At least we have a glass of water that we can fill water. And so you're being real with what you have. And so trying to instill that in folks is a lot of what I try to do.
Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. You think the mind over matter is magic. I do magic.
Welcome to Mind Over Matter, baby.
Oh yeah, that's tough. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, to the left of me, I have. Should I refer to you as Prince John? Because that's how I met you on Instagram, as Prince John.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Like, I would say like you're like an activist in a way. Is that a good name?
Wow, that's love.
Motivational speaker. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
He's doing a lot right now, putting a lot of just positive content out there into the world, and that's really how we met. So this is Prince. I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself.
For sure.
Tell the people what you're doing.
For sure, 100%. Now, first and foremost, appreciate DEJA just for having me on the brand and showing love. Definitely, she reached out, so I'm excited, man. It's one of my first personal endeavor-related like interviews, so that's exciting for me. But yeah, as she said, I'm John. Some people do the Prince, some people do John. That's like a childhood thing, so I kept it like that. But my name is John. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. Shout out my BK heads. You know the vibe. You know the vibe. So. Yeah, I just been grinding and putting on, just trying to give back to the youth. That's a lot of what I do in my free time. I did a lot of work working with, students and youth in general. And so went out to school for 4 years upstate and really took the opportunity serious, made a lot of connections, and we building from there. Yeah. Okay, let's get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how do you keep your like momentum up when you're in like dark times? Mm-hmm. Trying to be like motivational. How do you like get that, gas to keep going?
Word. That's a great question. Like, definitely I think the perception is like, people always motivated and you always just up top. That's definitely not true. I just want to be honest with that. Like, mm-hmm. I'm never always positive. In fact, I've been trying to just put that more into my content, like the reality of it, the realness of it, not like I'm always up, because I think that's the perception of a motivational speaker. They always motivated. So for me, though, to answer is just like reminding myself of why I'm doing what I do. If that makes sense. So reminding myself of just what grounds me and what keeps me grounded, the foundation, which is what I said earlier, you know, coming from Brooklyn. I come from a single mom, 8 family household. So, you know, growing up, it was a lot of just sharing your space, sharing your stuff, you know, always as the older brother, leading, you know, making room for my siblings. So remembering them and remembering like what brought me to this point helps me to remember why I'm doing it. So those are some of the stuff I try to just keep in my mind.
Right. It's a bigger picture, really.
Exactly. Bigger picture, yes.
Exactly.
Big time.
So, when in like times of like adversity, why do you, like, for me personally, I go by the motto like adversity builds character. And we were speaking about this earlier, like you said, like you have to kind of go through what you're going through and just be patient with it in a way.
Yeah, big time.
So you can grow from it and not try to force yourself out of the situation because in a way that makes it worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you like practice this?
Yeah. So definitely like grow through what you're going through. Like, so for me, that's just, I'm always constantly trying to remind myself again of why I'm doing what I do. But also just remembering that there's a lesson there's a lesson in what you're going through. So it might be a lot of times a blessing in disguise, right? So there is a message in your mess, right? There's a testimony in your tests, right? And so,
Bars.
you know what I'm saying?
Dropping gems.
Yo, word, you know, and so just reminding yourself, like, there's a reason you're going through, you know, what you're going through. There's a reason for the season. That's another one, right? And so if I could just try to look for the lessons in my adversity, you might be able to pull some value from there, you know? And so that's one of the ways I, you know, keep myself grounded and stuff through those tough times. So I'm always trying to work at that, always looking for that.
Yeah. And with social media in the picture, I feel like perception is very, like, what's the word? It's kind of like misconstrued sometimes because people are trying to put out, you know, the best version of their life, the highlights of their life. And how do you feel like perception and the way we view people now makes it harder for us to go through our adversities? Because I feel like it does.
Yeah, definitely. I think that has a huge part to play, especially like for me, as of late, is just like making sure we understand like it's okay to go through things, right? And so like I think, like you said, social media and stuff is just really portraying this big piece of like you got to always have it together. You're always posting your best moments. You know, when you're always posting your best moments, you're not really focused on the tough times. You're not so focused on, you know, I got to only highlight when I look my best. I got to only highlight my best meals, my best. What about the times when we going through it? When we don't have, you know, I know there's a lot of nights I don't really know, you know what I'm saying, what I might, you know, eat for the next meal. There's a lot of times that I had growing up that led me to this point, you know, why we not talking about that. So I do a lot of that on my page, just trying to shed light. You know, you'll see me post a lot about my childhood and my, you know, my family which is rare. You try not to post some of the things that mean a lot to you because that's a whole nother story. But really just trying to shed light on the things that are behind the good moments, right? Because again, we talked about the testimonies and the tests. There's no way I had a testimony I ain't go through something. And so really just with the focus on the testimonies, we could lose sight. And so I think that has a huge part to play. And so we really just trying to, you know, get back to like using social media as a tool and not really like this false facade of like, you know, what things should be. So,
yeah. But that's really what like made me even like stop to look at your content because I could see the authenticity in it. I could see that you had like originality. You weren't trying to just follow a trend.
Right. Appreciate that. Yeah.
And you were actually being real. And that's like really what's like gonna stand and what's gonna withstand this time because I feel like social media is not always going to be here.
Word.
And what are y'all really going to do with yourself then? You know what I mean?
Time. Nah, big time.
Yeah, but
I appreciate that. Shout out all my supporters too, man. Shout out my supporters supporting the content, man. Like that's big. We showing love to that. You know, we definitely want to you know, keep it pushing. And got a lot more big stuff, you know, in the works. But we appreciate that and. Shout out all my, you know, Optimist viewers. You know, that's one of my titles too. I ain't really saying in the beginning, but that's really who I am, the young optimist. And so we gonna push that for sure. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what the motto is like here. Like the whole purpose of this podcast is to just show you how you shouldn't let what's going on externally in your world govern how you feel internally. That's really the motto. Like you should always like try to because we're always in like how we're every day we're going through an internal battle of like, you know, emotions, you know, like trying to pull ourselves together. Is really us versus us, and that's what Mind Over Matter is. It's like kind of like uplifting the consciousness of people to like look at life with the glass half full in a way. Big time, yeah. And it's not easy to do that.
Yeah, not at all. I love that. I love that too. Yeah,
but how do you feel like people that perceive things in a negative light, or like the opposite of what I just explained? How do you think that I feel like, all right, let me scratch all of that. I feel like recently, because of the pandemic, there's been a lot of pessimism. I don't know if you've seen it, but like it's out there. A lot of pessimism.
Definitely.
Just people like, you know, just like saying it is what it is. Like, will you like when this ends, when that ends, kind of waiting for life to happen. And how do you feel like that affects like the global? Like, I feel like that affects all of us on like a global scale. Like they call it the collective consciousness. How do you feel like that affects us?
Yeah, big time. I definitely, I love that you mentioned that, because that's a lot of why I've been doing a lot of the work. I think the pandemic pushed me, and so I tell a lot, you know, my friends just like what it did for me. And so to answer, I think it's caused us a lot of pain. It showed us everyone a lot. You know, it put everybody's life on hold, and it shows people that life can change in an instant, right? And so how you react to change is going to be a big tool for you moving forward. And so we see that, you know, just being flexible, being adaptable, being able to adapt to your situation. How flexible can you be? That's going to determine how far you go. And I think the pandemic showed us. And so I think it has a direct impact on folks, especially young individuals who are pursuing their life. That was a very crucial time. I do a lot of work with youth, as I mentioned, and we see now that youth, especially with the rise of technology and just all of that, you're seeing what people do when they're faced with change, you know, just not being able to fend for themselves. And you've seen a lot more anxiety. In my close work with youth, I'm seeing anxiety, you know, self-destruction, just the mental toughness piece is really not there for a lot. So we got to work to rebuild those, because it's connections, it's in connecting people. And so if I take the very connection from people, the very power in this right here, the conversation, right, you could lose a lot. And so, you know, I go home sometimes, and sometimes my siblings, it's a struggle sometimes to get talking, you know what I'm saying? Some young folks, it's a struggle to get them off the game and stuff like that, and really just have a natural convo, which things that we look at for fun sometimes, it could be a lot. And so I think that has been a big part. And so I know the pandemic, for me, affected me a whole lot. I had to stay on a friend's couch for 8 months straight because of a situation that happened, because life changed. When you talk about change, it happens not when you expect it. And so for me, that had a result on my mental, and you had to get myself back out. Like, what am I telling myself? You know, some of those acclamations and stuff like that. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I definitely felt like just the heavy burden of the world. Like, we were all going through something. Even like if you're a positive person, like that, it didn't help in that moment.
Big time.
Because it's like, it's kind of like the perception thing again. Like, why are you so happy when, like, you know, like, it's hard to be happy.
Right. It's nothing to be happy for. What am I looking forward to?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I'm big on, like, just the optimistic point of view. Because I believe, like, you know, I just did a skit too. Like, it's a difference between optimism and positivity. Right? And so being positive. Well, you go ahead.
Like, how do you, like, shift the kids that you work with mindset when they are in that state of like, oh, I don't, like, what is the point? Right.
Yeah, like, and that's the toughest thing, to meet a person where they're at. And I think it's just that, like, meeting people where they're at. And so I'm not trying to shove it down your throat, right? I'm not one of these motivational messages that's like up in your mind, like up in your face and stuff like that, trying to like impose and stuff. I'm really just, you know, trying to make sure that you know, are aware of the message I'm bringing. And so, like, making sure I'm conscious of where they're at and being real and being honest. Like, oh, okay, you at a low spot. Like, I've been there too, right? That's my first approach. I'm never trying to I've been there too. Here's how I got it. It's kind of like take it or leave it. Like you could bring a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink, right? And so we try to teach students that and let them know. I hope that by my approach, you can see I'm being real and I'm not bringing you a false message. Because that's a lot where you lose people. You know, I see a lot in my field too, just like preaching and saying certain things like, well, damn, like I don't feel like you hear me or you understand what I'm going through if you just shoot me like that. And so for me, that's the biggest thing. And so when we talk about that optimistic point of view, between the difference between that and positivity is like, you know, positive person would have said in the pandemic, like, oh, we good, like, you know, we good, everything's gonna be okay, when really it's like, nah, a lot of people hungry and a lot of people like going through it and losing jobs and what have you, and it's looking skim, right? Optimistic point of view is like, well, at least, you know, at least it could, like, optimistic point of view is at least we got water, right? Like at least we have things, at least it's, you know, we're alive. We got things. It's looking at the reality of the situation versus just trying to like ignore. You get what I'm saying? Like it's just, so, you know, in a simpler, you know, term is what I did was, you know, the glass of water like we talked about, you know, positivity is like, oh, it's half full. Negative is like, it's half empty. Optimistic, you know, we like, well, we got water, right? Well, you know, at least we have a glass of water that we can fill water. And so you're being real with what you have. And so trying to instill that in folks is a lot of what I try to do.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it's all about perspective as well, because a lot of the times we don't realize that everything has intent behind it. And some of us aren't like, we don't realize, and we're not empathetic to people like and their different experiences. They were brought up in different ways and you think you can combat like what they're going through with the same formula. Like, no, we're all different. Like, yes. We all have like these, you know, we're complicated.
And they're important, right? Like they're important and they're valuable. And to ignore that is like to ignore the reason for a person's being. And so like I'm real with that. I think that's starting right there is the most important piece. Like how real can I value your story and can you value yourself? Can I inspire you to value your story? Right? Because a lot of hurt people are missing that. They're missing, like, you know, they haven't been heard, whether it's from families, teachers, people in the community, you know, I'm missing that. And so with my work, I'm trying to speak to your pain. I'm trying to speak to your heart. I'm trying to speak to what you're going through because that's where inspiration comes from. You can't be inspired if you, right? And so that's big.
And a lot of these people that come out the end of these, like, you know, adversities, they come out as beasts. Like, they come out, like, unstoppable once they actually shift their mindset. They're so much stronger than they were before, like, when they stop playing the victim and stuff. Like, how do you feel about people who don't have to try that hard because they haven't been through that much, you know?
Yeah, nah, definitely. That's tough. And it's like, fortunate for them, but it's like it's tough. You know, you ever seen the exercise with the race? You know, the privilege race, where you know you list certain things. If you grew up with a dad, take one step, right? If you knew where every meal was coming from, take another step. And you see, based on different people, different backgrounds, different races, what have you, certain people are left in the back, in the front, in the middle, whatever. Really, the point of that is to show how much we've all started from different points. And you'll see, like, some people who have privilege are super ahead, and it's kind of like, well, damn, if we all started at the same point, it'd be a different race. And so it's unfortunate, like sometimes, you know, the wealth gap and different things like that, like it's different among people. But I do think their value of hard work and their value of just like what it takes to progress is different. You know, growing up in a lot of our communities, we just hard work is everything. Work, right? Work, we know how to get to it. Like that's something I always heard. But I'm getting at the point where I'm like, we got to work smarter, not harder, right? And so we really want to become valuable. And so I was watching a speech before this, like my favorite motivational speaker, Miles Monroe. Make sure you go check him out if you haven't. He passed, rest in peace, but legend. He got so much gems online. I studied a lot of that. He was just talking about being a person of value instead of seeking money. And so seeking value, the more value you, the more valuable you become, the more value you attract. And so for me, I'm just like, you know, it's tough. They don't really have to do anything. Those people who, you know, to answer your question, like don't have to work as hard because they parents or somebody said it for them. We kind of have to because it got to start with us. It has not been as like long term the style of work we've been doing.
So the more privileged folks, we'll call them. I feel bad for them sometimes because a lot of the times they don't have to fight for anything, and they don't know what it feels like to earn something. Yeah. When you get everything handed to you, it kind of takes away your creativity. It takes away your ability to, stand up for yourself.
Yeah, nah, definitely. You missing a lot of the, you missing some of the core values, and that's some of the things I think about too. Because coming from like not so privileged background, I recognize some of the things I want to create for my future family and just for my current family too. Like, what are the things I want my bloodline to have and my last name to have, and one of those things is wealth, right? Like literally, like being wealthy. And so I was looking at something too. It was talking about the difference between rich, poor, and wealthy. And so, poor people talk about money. Rich people talk about things. Wealthy people talk about ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And so how much ideas, like, does your background have? And so I know, not for nothing, I credit everything I have and that I know to my mom. In no way I want to sound like I'm discrediting any of my family at all. My sister, they told me everything I know. But I do recognize, it's like money is a big thing growing up. Money. You know what I'm saying? Don't waste money. Don't wait. Bring back the change. You know what I'm saying? Like, get a job. It's always money. And so I think when we reach a point where we're past that, how can I create the same? What that did though was teach me how to save, right? And how to like manage my money and how to invest and how to take things serious, not waste an opportunity. How can I create that same lesson without some of the, struggles maybe that had to go through it? Can we have, wealth and stuff like, but still instill that into my kids, right? Because I think your original point was just like, feel bad for them and some of the things they know. I agree. Some of the things that they miss and don't know, but like, how can we still give them, some of those lessons that we know we need, but without some. So that's always the thing I think about as we get older, thinking about, making a family and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Because like, even like you said, like I would want my kids to have more than me.
Word.
Word. And I'm privileged to some people in their perspective.
Yeah.
Compared to others.
Exactly. Yep.
So it is about the parenting skills, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I still feel like that still stands there. Like my parents had to go through more than me. Like it was inevitable, and that just made them stronger.
Word.
But like you said, like the certain like characteristics they instilled into me also like makes me strong.
Made you who you are.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah,
big time.
That just changed my whole perspective.
You think about it, right? Yeah, nah, definitely. It's just, it's all about that point of view. And, again, like value in everything we learn through the struggle. Again, it's like the ultimate message of what we talking about. Getting pain and how much lessons can you learn through what you're going through, right? And so that's my biggest message when I hope to inspire and motivate folks is like literally I'm not giving you anything new. I'm literally giving you, something to apply to what you're going through, right? And I think that's what makes my message a little unique, is really just how, changing your perspective, right? And so the only difference between me and the people I work with, for the most part, is I've been actively working at, okay, I see I'm about to go through something, let me get my goggles on and start looking for, I put on a different set of eyeglasses and I'm looking at the lessons that's presenting itself versus, damn, like, woe is me. Like, damn, I got to be me. It's easy to be like that, right? And I do that sometimes too. Like, damn, like, I'm doing so much good. This is going to happen to me. Me. Right when you do that, that's when you are automatically, you set back yourself. You're going to miss the lesson. You're going to miss the message. And so that's a lot of what I try to help my young folks, and my peers too. Like, not only young people, not to say like young people are the people that, we need to learn too. Like what I'm saying, at this age and older, you need that wisdom. And so, just don't miss the message, stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Right.
That's why I think it's so important for you to be able to shift your perspectives, especially when you're evolving in different stages of your life. Some people don't have the ability to even realize they're seeing the world one-sided.
Yeah.
A lot of us so they say like when we're brought into this world, the world basically tells us how it is, like, right? And then we, like, what our parents tell us in our early ages is what we receive to be true as well, and then we interpret the world based off of what they give us and then what our parents give us.
What they tell us.
So that's like our default perception.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes the world kind of like is like it projects what you perceive it to be, and at the same time, whatever you perceive it to be is like a projection of what you've been through.
That's interesting. Yeah.
All of that being said, why do you think it's so important to shift your perspective, especially when like you aren't able to achieve what you want in life?
Right. That's big. That's a big question. Yeah, that's a big. Shout out DEJA breaking it down, man. Mind over matter. We here. Yes, sir. It's extremely important to change your perspective. You know, you seen the little cartoon. It's kind of like, you know, it's looking at the 9, and you know, one person on the other side like, that's a 9. Other person like, nah, it's a 6. You're like, the question is who's right? Both of them, right? It's important. That's a simple little thing that they show you, you know, growing up, but it means so much as we progress, because literally you'd be arguing with somebody for your perspective versus theirs. And it's important to like, I tell, you know, my younger sibling too, my younger brother was just, you know, having this conversation too, like perspective. He was talking about grades and stuff, and it's like, it's important to see it from the teacher point of view. You know, if you don't say it when it's affecting you, they might just think you going through it and you the class is good and stuff like, but you have to reach out and stuff like that. And so it's important perspective wise, because you could miss the value that another person brings in their life and what they're going through. And so when I'm going to speak, you know, my speaking engagements, and when I'm going, even right now, I'm open to your perspective, or else we wouldn't have an active conversation. We wouldn't have a, you know, a productive conversation. And so that's so important when you're trying to progress, because of your perspective. And if you just listening on that one, you can like miss so much like value for what you need to go to the next level. And so if I could share a story real quick, literally like when I graduated, you know, I was at the top of my peak. I felt like everything was working for me, getting a bunch of connections. Everything was working. Anybody who went to my college knows kind of like what I was on and just my energy. And I tried to just keep that consistent. A lot of stuff was working. Graduate, I made enough connections. I'm like, bet it's about to work perfect for me. Like I did what they told me to do, right? Like I was locked in and cool. Long story short, it didn't happen that way at all. Had to, as I mentioned, stay on the couch for 8 months. Of course, COVID, that was a crazy year to just graduate, be looking for a job in general, but it just didn't happen the way I thought. And so for me, I was stuck on this pride. I was stuck on this. I had it all figured out. I had my perspective. I had my way of thinking that it would work. And life clearly showed that it wasn't. And so I later got my goal later in the year. Like I was so grateful, you know, to get hired at a full-time position, my first full-time career and things like that. But through that time, though, it took almost a year for me to really go back and forth with myself and go back and forth with my mindset. Like, bro, it's bigger than you. Like, that's the biggest lesson I learned this year, and still learning. Like, and sometimes you got to sit down. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we reach to this point, social media affects that too. You posting, you getting likes, you getting all the, you bugging out, you forgetting the real lessons and the real stuff it take. And that's where we lose a lot of our youth and people today, because we didn't have that. A lot of the people who was heartfelt growing up, a lot of people we came to know and love, they didn't have this element within their society. And so we got to make sure we keep that alive, the real lessons and values that, you know, is going to take us. So definitely shift your perspective, be open. I promise you, be open, be willing to learn. So,
and that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Be open, because like I shared this story with you earlier about like a video I was planning on uploading, but I was editing it and I got in my head about it. Yeah. And I do this all the time. Even when I'm posting on like my story, I get in my head about it. Like, oh, should I post this? Should I post that? I don't know. I don't know what the people are gonna say.
Right.
Like, I kind of take myself, how I feel about it, out of the picture, and I put what other people think more. And that's really like, even back to the video I was editing, I was talking about just like protecting Black women at all costs, and then I was just comparing it to other communities that their initiatives go well, such as the Asian crime act that they passed. They got a bill passed, such as the LGBTQ community. They get a lot done. Right. And I was just comparing that, and I kind of got insecure about the topic, and I didn't want to upload it because I got in my head and I was just like, all right, maybe I shouldn't post this. Maybe it's too vulgar. Maybe it's too too passionate. I don't want to be labeled as an angry Black woman. I want to be labeled as this or that, or like a I hate gay people or whatever. Like, this cancel culture kind of got in my head a little. I was canceling myself before I was even canceled, and
that's big.
Like, how do you deal with like canceling out what other people think and their perception of you?
I love that question. That's like the name of the game right now. Like, how well can you not be affected by people and their opinions? but then go online and create like a business or content or art. Cause that's where we at right now, by the way, right? If you haven't already noticed, whatever you're doing, you should probably have some kind of content, some kind of social media account, which is crazy. That's pressure in itself. But you know what I'm saying? That's big in itself. But how can you not be fazed by it, but still cater to that audience, if that makes sense? That's really the game we play as content creators and, you know, folks who want to do that. So again, I love that question. For me, it's an ongoing battle, right? It's an ongoing journey, and just trying to, for me, again, remembering why I do what I do. And so lately what I've been trying to do, if I feel confident about this content, I feel confident that I'm putting it out. I know it had my best intent. I feel that what I've been posting, based on what I've been posting, people respond to this way. I'm going to put it out. I'm not really about to sit here and try to, I told you earlier, like I was my last brand. Let's talk about it. Shout out people who, you know, supporting Let's Talk About It from before. Don't worry, sneak peek. We got something coming. Now I'm saying it's the first time it's even being public, but we're going to throw that on here. Yeah.
Sneak peek.
Coming soon. But yeah, that was my original. And one of the things I got into was just editing too much. Like I was cutting out curses. I was cutting out language. I was cutting out the very things that I felt made people real. Like, and so because I'm just, I don't want this to be my image. I don't want this to be same kind of deal. But then I'm like, I got the response that people was like, yo, John, like, seeming too perfect. Like it's too life not even like that. That's crazy. We live a regular life, but we about to post as if it's perfect. And so for me, that's like, I go through that. I'm speaking from experience. Like I had to make sure, this is me. You know what I'm saying? I'll kill a suit and tie, right? But then I'll come in and throw a snapback on it. That's really me too. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm never going to let that go. I'm never going to let who I am go. That's part of that. And it take courage. It take like, you got to really work on yourself to get confident and be like, yo, I'm going to post this because it mean a lot to me. Is that okay with you? And if it's not, you gonna follow me, like stuff like that. And so, to answer though, you know, you definitely, again, you're catering to your audience, so you see based off what they responded to. Of course, you're not gonna post just craziness, but kind of respond based off what they did. And then, I feel as long as you feel close to your art and your content, I view it as like an art thing. And so we're not to go off on a tangent, but listen, Nip, rest in peace, Nip. That's one of my favorite, you know, artists. He said, "Would you rather be at, you know, war with the world?" I'm sure maybe you've seen this. At war with the world and at peace with yourself, or at peace with the world and at war with yourself. You feel me? And so we definitely
you gotta break that down real quick. Break that down.
That's big. Yeah, definitely. And I hope I said it right. It confuses me sometimes, but yeah. So at war with the world and at peace with yourself, or at peace with the world and at war with yourself. Yeah, that's right. For me, what that means to me. And shout out Nip, man. Again, rest in peace, man. He just shows so much gems. I really am inspired by him. I'm not inspired by a lot of artists like that because I feel like they be just doing whatever, but I love what he's standing for. I watched a ton of his work and stuff. So for me, that's just like, yo, like you gonna please people all your life and you know, be missing on the inside. You got a lot of miserable people out here. A lot of miserable people because they so focused on entertaining others. You got entertainers out here. That's what
people pleasers.
You feel me? And that's what this social media era and this whole time, money, capitalism, that's creating that. You know, how well can I, you know, do for somebody else before myself? And you got people messed up, missing inside, mentally missing. We posting all the pictures we got and I got caught up in that myself. Like you just posting. I'm about, before I eat, I'm about to post a picture of my meal. I'm hungry. I'm about to, let me get this pic though. Let me make sure my food getting cold. And that's like on a simple scale, but on a big scale, that's kind of how we are sometimes. Like you really yearning for that real stuff, but you missing, you perfect, but you missing it. So at war with yourself, that for me is at war. You know what I'm saying? You not fulfilled, you not satisfied, you not grateful inside, but you at peace with the world. People rock with me though. You know what I'm saying? People like me. I'm doing what so-and-so.
So it's at war with the world.
Word.
But not at peace with not.
So would you rather be at war with the world and at peace with yourself, or at peace with the world and at war with yourself? You feel me? Which one? Which one? And I think when you pose it like that, obviously most people I would assume gonna say, "Oh, I'd rather be at peace with myself." Yeah. But you really got to sit and think though. Am I doing more for myself? And sometimes that's for my brand, right? I do that a lot with my brand. Is my brand for me? And it's a weird question because you serving the audience, but it's like it's your brand. You feel me? Like I would like to think Louis Vuitton, Prada, all these brands and stuff that they don't really care about. They about to put out what they feel and we gonna cop. I don't really care about, you know what I'm saying? That's what we, you know what I'm saying? NBA players, big athletes, they gonna do what they do and we gonna go watch. And so that's like a question I always like keep my, shift my focus with.
Yeah, it's a lot of more people pleasers coming up now.
You
People are
feel me?
just agreeing. They're not even thinking anymore. They just
Word.
Yes, yes, man. Yes,
Word.
yes.
Word,
Like,
word. And we gotta break out of that.
yeah. How you want to end it? How do you want to end it? I feel like.
Let me see.
I feel like we bodied that
Yeah,
episode,
we went
guys.
crazy. That's gems in there. That's
Like,
crazy.
Take notes on that one. You know.
Yeah, that was crazy. Let's see. I don't know. We just gonna show love. I guess last remarks.
Well, I would say stay focused on yourself because it's only you versus you.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel internally is all that really matters, and that will be projected onto you from the universe. Whatever you give out is what you will receive back.
Definitely. We dropping gems today, man. Definitely just focus on yourself. Find what you're passionate about. I encourage you to connect to your passions. Connect to your purpose. Nip said that. Find your purpose or you wasting air. You know what I'm saying? I encourage you to be a person of value. Last thing I'll say right here, I be watching and reading a lot, whatever. So Miles Monroe again, like a tree, literally, the tree don't bring the fruit to you, right? You go to the tree, pick the fruit. That's because the seed has become the tree. It went through all this process, boom, it manifested as fruit. Now it attracts people to it, right? You become a person of value, you become a being of value. And so work on yourself as you continue your journey. And stay tapped in, man. Follow me too.
Real.
Prince_John_John.
Exactly.
Word.
Tap in.
The young optimist. We here. Let's get it.
Stay tuned for his projects coming up. I'm not gonna say too much, yeah. But stay tuned for that. And thank you so much if you reached the end of episode 32 of Mind Over Matter, baby.
Mind Over Matter. Shout out. Big time. Appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, let's get it. Boom. Going crazy.
Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Mind over matter is magic. I do magic. Mind over matter.